Emomee went to Shark Tank.
All sharks wanted to invest. We went with Namita and Aman. It's not a great time to be running an agency.
You had already done some really successful things while at Glitch. How come the confidence was still low?
If a project does really well, I'm like, oh, it was a team effort. A pitch goes really badly, I'm like, oh, I didn't do it right.
What was the biggest thing that Glitch did as an achievement?
We changed the mindset of so many of the largest brands in the country to put digital content at the forefront and the center of how they build their brand.
Internally, did you feel like you have arrived when you sold the company?
The first check we got from WPP when we sold Glitch, Rohit and I sent each other screenshots of what came into our account, and then we went back to living exactly the way we lived before.
What do you think about the podcasting industry now versus when you were doing it?
I think we need to stop calling it podcasting. It's all different formats of shows that we have.
What is your biggest learning from doing podcasting?
There is the line between over-preparing for a conversation and under-preparing, and where that line is where the most insights come from. I'm very good with dealing with shit, like in work-wise, in life, everywhere else.
What gives you that motivation to come back again, and it's not then driven by finances?
If the work is satisfying, I know the money will come. My first job at MTV was for 12,000 rupees a month. I quit that job to join Channel V for 13,000 rupees a month. Only reason was because
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Aleena Dissects. I think in the whole uploading and recording, we've reached around 70 episodes, and that's been quite a lot. You know, when I look back, I'm like, I've been doing this every Wednesday for so long, and I'm already excited about what I want to do for the 100th episode we are planning with the team. But if you guys have any thoughts, please leave them in the comments, so maybe we can incorporate what to do for our 100th episode. For our episode today, we have Varun Duggirala, who was the founder of one of the biggest agencies in India called The Glitch. And now that doesn't exist, he's moved on to doing various other things that we're going to talk to him about, but mostly about his new startup called Emomee, which is for children. Let's dive into it and speak to him about his journey. First of all, thank you so much, Varun, for being on Aleena Dissects. Very excited to speak to you today.
thanks for having me. I'm happy we're finally doing this.
Finally, it's been so long, and I don't think I've ever interviewed a podcaster, and you've done so many episodes through the course of your career that very happy to speak about bits of that also. Yeah. But I feel like I've known you as like a builder, taking things from scratch and then, you know, taking it to that big level, and you've done that over and over again. On that, I want to ask you, that what is like the most difficult thing when you are building something from scratch over and over again?
After you cross that first phase is the toughest part, because building something initially, it's a lot of fun. So you're excited about it, you kind of get into it. I've always gotten into building something without having any plan of what we were actually building. So Glitch had no business plan. We literally had a name and one client, and we started off. Even with Emomee, we started off because it was an insight. So for me, it's always been about, let's jump in, let's figure out what it is, because you won't know what it is till you figure it out. The tough part is after you figure it out, then it becomes that, you know, daily process of fine-tuning it, and that's the actual building. I feel that's the toughest part. It's really fun to have ideas, but to actually do the building blocks slowly and then be consistent and mindful of what that is becoming, that's actually the tough part.
Has that changed over the years? Like in the beginning, you would always be like, for example, you're experimenting, but then when you get older and you understand the industry, maybe it's a little easier to navigate how to go through it?
I feel it's easier when you're younger and haven't built anything. When I think back on Glitch, Rohit and I were two guys who were working in music television. My entire, I would say, my education in media was those 4 years I spent working in MTV and Channel V, and because they would really put us through the grind. And we only quit to start Glitch because they said, we're not going to play music anymore, we're going to make serials now. And we didn't want to make serials. And we were like, where's the fun stuff happening? Someone said online, and this is pre-Instagram, right? So we're like, oh, let's go make videos for brands on the internet in 2009, which everyone's like, what is wrong with you? It's 1 year after recession, no one's going to give you work. And we're like, no, we'll figure something, because we knew we had the skill sets. And I think that's the thing, right? If you know you have the skill sets, then you kind of jump in and figure it out. We both knew how to direct, both knew how to edit. I had done enough production. Rohit understood design. We're like, okay, skill sets are there. What's the worst that will happen? We'll have to go look for a job. And we jumped into it. Versus now, once you've been through that once, you've also seen a fair amount of success with it. What you will end up doing is you will analyze it a lot more. So you'll be stuck in procrastination mode about business plan and all the other stuff. So when you're younger, you're not thinking about those things. Like we literally spent 6 months thinking of a name and 15 days figuring out where we'll get my business from.
Okay.
This time we actually have, I would say, our 0 to 1, we're still at that early stage at Emomee, and we've spent so much time just on that. What is this business? So we build it right. I feel that's what really changes. I mean, there's no right or wrong.
Right.
But I feel it's easier when you're younger and don't have experience as a slight burden.
Is that also because that is a service business and maybe this is more product led?
I actually feel everybody's in a service business per se. It's just, I actually feel the consumer part is tougher because that's a much larger set of people to service. At least in a service business, you have a finite number of clients and you work with them. With a consumer business, or in our case, a media business, you're really looking at a wide spread of people you are creating stuff for. So it is, but I also feel that the more and more I'm seeing how companies are evolving, I'm seeing service businesses behave like consumer and media businesses, and media businesses behave like service businesses, because end of the day, you are still collaborating with others, you're still talking to platforms. You will always be servicing someone in every business is my... I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing as an insight, but I think that's
it's a good thing. I think it's the end goal, right? You're providing for others. And I think that same thing happened with me when I was starting Social Media Dissect. I had no idea what I was doing. It was just an Instagram page, and then it navigated to what it is today. But when I started the podcast, because I knew what I had to do, I made a business plan. I said I have to do it this way. This is how brands will come in. This is potentially how much money, revenue will come. All of those things were jotted down because I had that much experience. So I feel like when you're younger, you're still navigating, then you have some kind of an insight.
Yeah. I didn't even know what a business plan was. We were like, where are we going to make money? Will we pay for rent? Was the plan. I remember the first time someone asked us if what's your MIS look like? And be like, what's an MIS? And something like, are we looking at be like, get a project, make money, pay salaries, move to the next month was literally the way to look at it. But I think there's a science you learn of how to build a business also over time. I think that experience also kind of helps you and gives you a broader perspective on where things can actually go. I feel when you start off, especially I think service business, right? You think about what are the services you can provide. But when you're kind of building a media business like we are, it's about what all can we create and how many legs will that have as that goes ahead. I think that's really been exciting in the last couple of years.
If I had to ask you, what is the project that has made you most money and what is the project that has given you most happiness, what would that be?
Glitch has given me most money because that's a business we sold. That sale kind of secured not just me financially, kids are taken care of, everything. That part was done, right? So I feel that has to be. But the projects I've actually enjoyed the most are, and I'm a very solo creative person. So each of the books I've written have been projects I've really treasured. I think the one book I've written for adults was an 8-month period of just me writing, working with one editor. So it's fully plugged out. Writing books is not a money-making business, but it's deeply satisfying. And actually writing kids' books was even more fun. I've done about 6 to 7 kids' books now. That's also fun because you can work with an illustrator and the story part becomes simpler. So I think I look at projects as what is satisfying and what is making money. And many times those aren't necessarily the same thing, but they feed off each other.
Right, which is why I asked this question. I'm a reader of your Substack also. I really like what you write. And I understand where you're coming from because after, for example, when you've sold a company and for that much, it's what gives you that motivation to come back again. And it's not then driven by finances.
Yeah. So here's the thing about what you believe will happen once you get that first big paycheck. Right? All of us believe it's going to lead to some massive change in the way you live your life, and a few fundamental things change. But I remember the first check we got from WPP when we sold Glitch, Rohit and I sent each other screenshots of what came into our account with emojis. And then we went back to living exactly the way we lived before.
Really?
The only difference we made was both of us did buy houses, which was also because it was tax efficient to do that, but also because it was a thing which I think everybody does, you'll buy a house. But beyond that, I don't think apart from smaller tweaks you do to your lifestyle, the way you live your life, you realize doesn't change as much. If you're very clear about how you want to live your life, you don't necessarily see big splurges happening. You will do a few more holidays. You will maybe you might just fly business class. You will do some of those things. But beyond that, you are just going back to work, doing the exact same thing. So the satisfaction comes from the work. And so what I've always looked for is, can I find work that is satisfying for me? And this has been like the case even before, right? I remember my first job at MTV was for 12,000 rupees a month. I quit that job to join Channel V for 13,000 rupees a month, right? The only reason was because the projects I was going to get in Channel V were projects I wanted to do. And at that stage, I wasn't getting some of the projects I really wanted to do at MTV. So for 1,000 rupees more, I just moved jobs, which in hindsight worked really well because I progressed really well there. But so for me, it's always been about, if the work is satisfying, I know the money will come. And that's the only thing. And you can always find things that satisfy you, no matter what the other motivations are.
And can you keep that patience right from the beginning of your career?
I don't know if it's the privilege or if it's just the mindset of the fact that I always looked at, if I do something that is enjoyable, then I'll figure a way to live my life. I'm technically an engineer because I spent 6 years doing a 4-year degree. So I have that degree to show that I have. But I know a lot of people who were, from my batch, who would have started off with far higher salaries than I had, right? But I'm like, no, I want to pursue stuff which is interesting to me. Started off with jobs like the kind I had. And then even at Glitch also, we never really took high salaries. I think when we finally sold, they said, we'll normalize your salaries to bring it up to par. But it's never been a driving factor. Do I like nice things? Yes, I do. Do I have a few expensive hobbies also? Yes, I do. But those come with age, and those come with the fact that you can maybe get those things. But I am as excited today to buy a bobblehead as I am to buy a watch. So I don't think that's a defining factor. So yeah, I think it does come with that. The word is, are you an enthucatlet enough about enough things? Then you'll find something to enjoy.
So externally, of course, life remains somewhat the same. Internally, did you feel like you have reached, you have arrived, you have done something great when you saw that check come in and when you sold the company?
Full honesty, no.
Okay.
So here's the thing, right? And actually, the funny part is, I've felt this more in the last 2 years than I have felt when we sold the business. Because we were so focused on building the business that selling the business was to scale the business, and whatever money came was great for us. But it also helped make the business progress the way we wanted it to progress. And only the last few years, I've met so many people who were part of Glitch again after years. And everybody's had lovely things to say about what they missed about it and what they enjoyed while they were there. I feel that part is what actually made me think, oh, we did something right. That's what doing a company right means. It's not just what the P&L shows or what you've been able to kind of get as, successful products or anything else. Is that have the people who work there look back fondly and say, okay, I enjoyed working there. And has the business also helped them evolve in their careers? I think for a lot of our leadership at that point of time, after we sold to now, have all progressed really well in their careers. Very moved to supremely senior positions, gone across the world. And that for me is far more satisfying. And also I look back at that as saying that is actually what we should all try to kind of look at. So, okay, I did that right. The money part was never a motivation. It's still not, isn't for me. The only money motivation that comes in for me is the fact that I do have 2 kids and school fees are high. So I do have some of those things in mind at the back of my head, but it is really expensive to bring up kids in today's world.
That's true.
But beyond that, I think I don't look at those things.
And if you look back and say what was the biggest thing that Glitch did as an achievement, the company did, what would that be?
Well, Glitch did one fundamental thing, is that when we started off, we were not an agency, we were a production company. We were a production company making content for brands on the web. And that was generally meant that even at that stage, and even when we become a creative agency for the web, you were always that set of people at the not even having a seat at the table. You were not even maybe standing at the back of the room, right? You'll have your main creative agencies there. And we walked in and we didn't say that we want to replace what the traditional creative agencies do. We are like, we know how that traditional part works. We also know how the new age stuff works. So we are going to be on that table. And we successfully did that by giving results, but also making really good creative. And so we really changed the way brands looked at content as a part of their entire like mix. Right? At that time, spending on content, spending on digital. Like I remember the first time we went to a brand to sell them a video to put on their Facebook page at that point in time. They're like, Facebook's free, why should I spend money on it? And we literally started off with that. To progress to a point where brands are making large scale videos and long series and stuff and building their entire, let's say, YouTube ecosystems for them, to be able to take them on that journey and for them to be satisfied with it. Right? They're seeing actual ROI, they're seeing actual value in community from that. That for me was the most, I think the most important thing we did was that we changed the mindset of so many of the largest brands in the country to put digital content at the forefront and the center of how they build their brand, which wasn't necessarily a clear focus area for most at that time.
Do you remember a client or a moment or a project that when this happened, you were like very happy about it? Or like a most impactful campaign you've done?
I think one of the biggest brands we helped kind of build out was when Netflix came to India. So we were their first agency on record. We were their only agency at that point of time. Actually, they didn't have an office in India yet when we became their agency. And we helped them not just launch Netflix in India, but really like roll out, let's say, Sacred Games and really build a narrative around that kind of, I mean, now we call it web series, but I think that kind of content really coming out and for audiences to really gravitate towards that. I remember that Sacred Games launch part was fabulous because we hit it from all ends. We even like worked with Divine to create that song and then music video, which he still plays in his sets. So for us, validation was you get an artist to come in and create something for a brand, and he still chooses to play that whenever he has a concert, even today, shows that the artist really enjoyed doing it too. That was one. What we did Unilever actually was another one because I worked very closely on that business. Was that we worked on two ends of Unilever. We worked on one end as a creative partner. On the other end, we were a production partner as well. So we were actually doing production for other agencies globally as well as in India. And we created this entire system of creating, at that time it was called organic content. But how do we take content away from everything seeming like an ad, especially in the case of beauty? And beauty at that time, in many ways, the perception was a lot of the brands which Unilever had was slightly older. So, we really helped them launch a bunch of digital first brands with content at the center and very like stuff that was very, now it sounds really dated for me to say Instagram like, but at that point in time, Instagram like content for a brand to create was not a thing. We really pushed them to do that and build those content engines. And I mean, for me personally, a large part of my job was the back-end logistics of how can you create a high volume of pieces and really push them out. And not just large brands like these, right? I think that there's a third example I'll pick, which is when Boat was launching. And one of the core things we actually did was we worked with the Boat team to say, okay, these are the celebrities you're getting on. This is how we can get like 25, 30 assets out in a single day of shoot with the celebrity, which at that time was more about getting one ad out with like 20, 30 assets out and plan it right in a very tight budget. So I think while these are all things which now everybody does, we were doing this in like 2012 and 2013. It's almost like more than 10, 12 years ago, right? So I think the fact that we were so ahead in doing those, and we did a lot of fun projects in between. I've literally picked 3, but I can go on with a long list of them.
No, I think that's what even I noticed at Glitch when I was covering campaigns and doing social media dissect, is that at that point, this was not the norm. Like the brands would still come in with like a very strict brief that this is how we want to do. And I think that was more like mainline how they used to work. And then there were these agencies like yours who were like, no, we need to make it for the younger audience and we need to make it for online. And you guys made the shift in the mind of all the brands and said that this is how we do it. And now today it's the norm, right? If you go to a influencer, for example, you have to let them do what they want to do instead of giving them a script and giving them, listen, this is exactly how you want to do. So I think that was the most fun part for you to do, is to change their mind on things, which is, I think, the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. We also used to do projects which would at some point be like, people would be like, why are you even trying to do this? I remember one of our earliest projects was we did an entire series called Nano Drive with MTV, where MTV was the client. And we sent 4 nanos across 4 parts of the country. With 4 people in each of the nanos, and every day those people would shoot content, edit it and upload it, and how many likes they got on Facebook got them money for fuel.
Okay.
And we had a 3-member crew following them. And this is before 5G, right? This is like maybe 4G, 3G times, and we had like a 3-member team following them, and we went all over the country with that. And we saw, and the thing is, these can be a very cool thing to do. But what the end result was super interesting is that when they did a survey after that saying, can the Nano go across the country? A large part of people said yes, because they had seen that property online. So can you actually deliver a result like that while also making a really fun project like we did? Like we were like a travel agency sitting in the office doing that entire show. It was actually our first big, massive digital project at that point of time. But yeah, so like we would say yes to a lot of things and then figure out how to do it.
But do you think also there was a timing that played a huge part in building the company? Because of course you did it right, but also you were first mover and you had that advantage. Do you think today that would still work in the same industry and same agency world?
I feel what we did at that time is what, let's say, an AI-centered agency will be doing today. It's about, are you following where things are going to go in the next 5 years? And for us, we were actually in a good spot because we didn't come from agency background. So Rohit and I didn't come from an agency background. It's only after Pooja joined in when it became an agency, because she had been in that space. We were just guys who knew how to make content, and we said, let's build that content out and see where it goes. And that really helped us come up with ideas which weren't typical. Like we never sold an ad. The same way how today, if you look at a content creator, most content creators try to not make an ad, while a lot of times it becomes an ad, because also like how things have to be structured. But I feel every content creator first comes in with the lens of, okay, I want to make this content, and then it can also include a brand.
Right.
And when I think of an AI creator today who's using AI to kind of build out ecosystems, they're going to say, okay, one second, I don't have all these restrictions anymore. Now, how can I create something without the restrictions I've had in the past? And I'm seeing so many people use just the tools available now to really expand out and do so much more.
For me, I think today digital marketing agencies have changed a lot, and you tell me if this is right or not, wherein like today they're struggling quite a lot because of AI, because of costs going high, because of a lot of work getting automated. And then this is also coming from questions that I get from our audiences, who will be like, is it the right time to start an agency? Should you even start one? Is it the same amount of things that you get when you started back then? And where is it even heading for the existing agencies?
Tough one. It's not a great time to be running an agency. I think that's a fact.
I think full service
agency. It is a good time to run an agency if you're super specialized. If you have a very clear area of specialty and you've used tools to optimize that, where you don't have to keep hiring more and more. Because the scale of agencies comes from every account you have, you hire more people to manage that. But if you have a very product-centered kind of a business, like today, if I'm if I'm more a content-focused agency for brands, and I can really at the back end build out, personas, and I can use tools which can supplement for human beings being there, then I'm not increasing cost per client or people per client. And if I can optimize that right, then I can really kind of build out a far more effective thing for me. So I'm not also adding more cost.
Right.
And for a client, I'm giving them that resources. But I feel that what's the bigger challenge I feel for agencies is not AI as much as it is in-house agencies at brands. A lot of brands I have seen now are building out internal teams at the scale of an agency. And so a lot of them who I speak to are like, I'll only go to an agency if something which my internal team can't do.
Okay.
And I feel that will happen more and more as the complexity of marketing evolves. I remember when I started off, and it was just a point when digital was kicking off, where a brand would do 3 TVCs a year, maybe 3 to 4 print ads, and an occasional digital post, which was basically anyway that print ad and that video.
As an extension of that, yeah.
So you had 6 to 8 creatives a year. Now you will do more than 6 to 8 creatives a day across any agency or any brand right now. So that's why the brands start to in-house that stuff. Now, when you bring in AI, you can also bring in hyper efficiency internally, because then the brand gets to control that data set themselves and build out the creatives and everything else, which makes sense for them to do that. So the only reason they will go out to get an agency, either you do something super specialized or something which only they can hire for the job. Like a great example for me is what Moonshot does. I feel what Tanmay and Deva have been able to do is that, the kind of creative they make for brands, a brand can't in-house that. So they have to go to them to kind of create that kind of humor, that kind of
because of the creativity and the strategy. That's something then you get burnt out if you're doing the same thing internally all the time.
And you also won't get freshness. You won't get freshness of that creative idea there. Similarly, when I look at some of the agencies getting built, like actually I think Mr. Beast announced this yesterday, right? He's building out an entire platform to connect creators with brands as part of Beast Industries, because he knows how that connection happens. He can optimize that for production scale, for anything else, and he'll give creators the tools and give brands the access. So what we're going to see is that the traditional way where an agency would be called in to do a specific job is gone. Now it's like, what can you do that a brand can't do in-house? It's not something everybody can do.
True.
There has to be something you bring into the table which everybody else can't do.
That's different.
That's actually why I feel creators are the new agencies, but that's a whole different conversation.
Okay. What is something that then today existing full service digital agencies should do so they survive and thrive?
Two things. Figure what you can do that everybody else can't. And more importantly, I think it makes more sense for brands to build out internal teams. So agencies to build out internal teams for brands. Because what the brand doesn't want is the headcount. But they also do want the agency. And I know a lot of agencies are already doing this, that having dedicated teams for brands, if you can crack that right, can be great, because the brand wants that internal team, might not necessarily want to manage the team, also have that headcount, do all that stuff. And if you see some of the biggest global brands in the world, they still follow that system.
Yes.
But if somebody can build that out as a scalable system for smaller brands too, where I know the word dedicated was a tricky word before, because you can't dedicate it with human resources. But with human plus AI now, you can actually build dedicated teams for multiple brands at whatever scale you're at. I honestly feel that's where the opportunity lies.
Something like a Mindshare, which does for WPP and HUL, they have a dedicated agency wing. So you're saying that can be replicated for smaller agencies also.
Yeah, because the good part about using AI today is that you have, I mean, we say this internally now at Emomee, that AI is our employee of the month every month, right? And nobody can work more efficiently than all the AI we use. And use that to your advantage. So humans do the strategy, humans do the outer layer of things. Make anything that can be mechanized, anything that can be put into a rolling system, have AI drive that, and you will see far better results. I feel what we end up doing is we're still doing half and half. We're still trying to stick to how things were.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to rip the band-aid off and say, no, let's rethink the whole system. I've spoken to a few agency heads in the US, and I know a lot of them are doing that. There are people who have sold their agencies, who even like left advertising, who come back to saying, I'm building an AI-centered agency from scratch, because it might be easier today to build an agency from scratch with AI at the center than to plug in AI into how an existing agency functions.
Okay.
Because you have so many systems already in place, it's tougher for you to change that. So a lot of them are actually leaving and saying, I'll start fresh, which is easier for only a few. It's tough for most. But I feel that's the way to go, because there are so many agencies now, and brands are constantly looking out for who do I work with.
True. Now I want to talk to you about Emomee. You spoke about it a little bit, but can you tell me what was the need or reason that Emomee came out of? Like, what was the reason Emomee exists?
So Emomee came out of a simple insight. Pooja and I, along with Rohit, had built Glitch before, and along that initial part of the journey, Pooja and I met, fell in love, got married. We've had 2 kids along the way, who are now 8 and 3.
Wow.
In the early pandemic, we were seeing that they would, kids were living their lives on the iPad a lot, because school was on an iPad and you were at home, so you had to figure out ways to entertain them beyond a screen. But at some point, you would give them that screen. And we noticed that a lot of the content kids consumed, compared to the kind of maybe cartoons we saw as kids, was not as, they were entertaining, but they weren't giving them any information to tap into that curiosity as much. There were a few, but we didn't see enough content that was helping a kid learn stuff which parents wanted them to learn in an entertaining way. And it started with that, saying all parents want kids to learn a certain set of life skills. The best way to teach kids life skills is through stories, and content is at the center of that. And we're like, we know how to build content, we know how to build media. We've always done it for grown-ups. Now we have kids, so we understand that because we spent enough time in the last 8 years watching content which kids consume and saying, is there an opportunity to build that? So that is the first part. Can we give life skill building content for kids that helps them learn those things the way we all learn? Like we learned like friendship from watching Pumbaa and Simba together, right? We learned about family watching Jungle Book, right? You learn about family there, and every single cartoon you watch, you can think back on something I learned from it. Like even like Chacha Chaudhary taught us something, right? And so, and we're like, are kids learning that today? Maybe there are a few characters globally, but we didn't see anything going out of India for the world as an IP that was teaching them stuff. You've seen a Cocomelon come in with nursery rhymes. You've seen a Bluey come in with amazing stories out of Australia. You're seeing a Peppa Pig coming in from the UK. Like we've had a Chota Beam, but the difference is that it hasn't scaled to a global IP. Which is the second thing for us was like, can we build a global IP out of India, which kind of can scale across the world and become this global franchise and become this global piece. And media has been my first love for a long time. So Pooja and I was sitting down, and I remember we were, I think, 6 months into both of us quitting WBP, and this idea kind of came in, and we spent some time working on it. And initially said, okay, let's build the characters out. So we built the characters out, then worked on the first set of stories. Then we're like, let's see how we can kind of scale this up as well. And YouTube was the way, because YouTube is the most native place for kids to consume content. So then we started building that out. Along the way, we raised our first round as well. And the whole idea was, again, this: let's build a media business for kids out of India, where kids can learn life skills with every single day. And we took our time to build the right strat for it. April this year, we were about 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. By August, we were 1 million subscribers. We now, across 2 channels, do about 4 to 5 crore views a month. And we're scaling quickly.
But 1,000 to 1,000,000,
Yeah.
What changed when that happened?
It was a strategic call on our part. We had tried multiple ways to tell these stories. We did longer videos, different formats. We were like, how can we keep it in a way that a kid learns one thing every single day? So we said, can we put up one video a day? So from April till now, across all our channels, now we have 2 channels, the third is launching very soon, we put up one video a day. So kid learns one thing every single day. So it can be everything from why do I get angry, to how do I say hi in 5 languages, to why do I feel itchy when a mosquito bites me? Or does the 5-second rule count when food falls on the floor? We all say 5-second rule, right? Does it actually work? So it's that one thing which they can actually use in real life. And that's what we create. And so that strategy of putting up one video a day, that really helped us scale up. And what also happened around July actually, is YouTube announced a new feature called Autodub. So what Autodub did was it immediately opened us up to a lot more global audiences. So like today, India is about 20% of our market. Philippines is slightly higher on many times. US is almost equal to what India's audience is. So India, US, and Philippines are our top 3 audiences, and that fluctuates over time. We're seeing a strong amount of growth in the UK, in the UAE, in South Africa. And that's why we're focusing on multiple channels across multiple languages as well now. We're seeing that also bring in traction. Like our Hindi channel gets more views every month than our English one does. And we're launching Spanish very soon. We're going to have other languages. And the good part of building, again, AI as a backend is that we can scale very quickly. So while we have a human animation team, in terms of human beings animating, a lot of our element creation is using AI. All our voices are AI generated because we've designed them using AI. So I'm in-house Preetham half the time creating some of the songs we do. So that's actually been, I have a long answer to a simple question, but that's been the journey so far.
No, I understand. What are the kind of tools that you can use for an IP that you create on YouTube?
Animation is actually a great place to use AI because we designed all the spaces ourselves. So, all the kids' rooms, the playground, the school, all of that was human designed. Right? Once you have those designs in place, for you to add in elements, we just, we use everything from Nano Banana to generate images. We use LML Labs for all their voices. LML Labs is actually what we've used for a long time across, narration build ones where you have like, sometimes we even had like a teacher narrate some things to even our characters talking about stuff. We use vidIQ, which is a YouTube backend tool which has an AI coach which looks at our data and brings out insights for us. So we looked at it from a case-to-case basis. We use Suno AI for music generation, for songs when we create them. So yeah, I think there are enough tools there. But 11 Labs and the entire Google Suite actually. VO3 is something we use a lot. for like, if you want to create a glowing shark today, we can create that glowing shark using AI versus our characters that are still animated by humans. So we still keep the core character animation human, and I think that's what gives it that texture. But if it's something I'm going to use only once in a video, we just end up generating it.
Got it. When you started this, did people tell you that, maybe you should do something else instead of making YouTube videos?
We were told that, so which is like what we actually did. And this has been our focus, right? When you looked at our business, we were like, this is when we built a business plan, when we were asked that question. So Emomee as a business functions on 3 pillars. We've so far only launched one. We call it screen, shop, and stage. That kids will consume a content on screen. Right now, everything is free there. At some point, we will have stuff that will go into streaming. We might look at a different kind of a platform play for ourselves at some point of time, like a lot of these subscriptions, etc. Shop is, can we create products and merchandise that's built on our characters? We've actually done a bunch of toy drops. So we created toy kits with our characters. So there's a book, there's physical toys, the activity cards. We've done a bunch of those, and we tested those through the last 1 year. So whenever our content would scale up, we would launch a new set and see that how much of this sale is organic versus how much through performance. So we also are seeing, once again, is character recognizability, a way to kind of bring in a consumer. And so we've actually done that. We've seen that we've had months where, for instance, our organic orders are almost 40% of our orders, right? And so that was great validation for the scale we were at that point of time. What we will also move on to is different categories, but our focus is not to create our own and become a consumer business. We're always going to be more a merchandise or a partnership build business in that sense. And the third one is stage, which is actual physical spaces. Can we create the equivalent of an Emomee world where you get our characters to life, and we actually have our characters as mascots. And we've had them in malls, we've had them in bookshops, and kids have loved engaging with them. And again, whenever we do that, we will place something about the channel there, let's say a screen or something for them to go subscribe, and also some amount of merchandise or physical products. And you've seen, okay, once again, a kid has seen this piece of content. Do they want to actually go buy a book? Do they actually want to go and watch the channel? And that's a way for us also understand, is it actually pushing them to have a deeper relationship than, oh, I saw it once, it's fun, let me move on. And that's where actually when you give value, we've seen that come in. That a kid is actually, someone recently we had met was like, my kid was walking by one of these play areas, and you had set up some of your merchandise there, and she walked by and she was like, hey, Mama, Emomee. So the fact that when a kid can recognize you, it hits something which is, I think what a media business today can do is that you hit something called content product fit. Where the content makes you want to buy the product, and the product makes you want to consume the content. And once you hit that cycle, you're actually not spending money on customer acquisition anymore. You're just on that flywheel.
Did it always go stably, the business, or were there like dips and then it took off?
With Emomee, I think what took us a while was to figure out what formats work for kids. We explored, okay, let's tell stories with them. Let's make it more story-led. We've tried longer formats. We've tried stuff which are quizzes and stuff like that. The format we have now is what's worked the best. So I think we had a good 1 year of multiple kinds of content pieces and seeing which one sticks. And we found one flow that really works is, you started one moment that every kid finds relatable, or one thing they're all curious about, and you build content around that. And we honestly treat our characters like they are YouTubers, because half the time they're like, there many times they'll talk to the camera and say, do you know why this happens? And like, I think there's a recent one, right? There's one of our videos in Hindi channel which is done really well, is roz subah nashta nahi karunga to kya hoga? Which is a very classic kid question, right? And that video has some about 74 lakh views or 80 lakh views, right? Because it's just kids just watch it. Because once again, this is a question I have. It's relatable to me, so I'll watch it. And which is why at no point, I think our clear rule is that there's this tension between what a parent wants a kid to learn and what a kid wants to consume. And we sit at the intersection of that. So the moment it starts feeling more like school to the kid doesn't want to watch it.
Right.
The moment it feels like it's just random entertainment with no value, the parent doesn't want them to watch it. So we have to very clearly sit on that line. And finding that line has been the tough part.
Okay. And what has been the biggest setback while building this?
I think the biggest setback for us was the fact that we took a while to figure out what resonated with the audience. The foundation of our entire framework to create content is social emotional learning. right?
Okay.
So kids learn how to be more social, understand their emotions, deal with the world around them using that. To find the right topics has always been a struggle. Sometimes you would assume that as a parent, you would want kids to consume certain things. Oh, I want my kid to have better EQ. I want my kid to understand their emotions more, and we all went with that mindset. So it's almost like a pre-centered mindset. Okay, this is what kids should be learning. So let's make content on that. I think where we really had to take a step back and learn was that we might believe a kid wants to learn all these things, but let's first figure out what they actually are curious about.
Okay.
And the more time you spend doing that, we realize that kids are way smarter than we give them credit for. Like, I remember there was a school session I did once, which was like, I came back and I'm like, I am going to like rethink everything. Was that I did an entire session on why we get angry in a second grade classroom.
Okay.
And the part that the kids are most excited about was to understand what the prefrontal cortex was. I'm like, I didn't know what prefrontal cortex was till I was like 41, 42. This is like a 7-year-old whose most exciting part about a big animated video is you showed something which is called a prefrontal cortex, which he couldn't even pronounce. I want to know more about that.
Were they excited about the organ or the placement,
No, just
or like
I mean,
that's what produces it?
I'd also explained it a certain way. I called it the monkey mind and the wise mind. And they're like, I want to know what the monkey mind is. and it's just that like they're curious about very specific things.
Okay.
And kids today are also a lot more aware. Like, we've had videos we've done on the channel which speak about money. And normally if you had to, for instance, explain what a budget is to a kid. A lot of videos on money, by the way, do really well. Financial learning is, again, a topic we didn't think would be that more curious for kids. So we did this video on how to explain a budget to a kid. And the video is basically, kid wants to buy a toy, one of our characters, and the mother's like, it's not in the budget. And the character's like, but what's the budget? So you then explain to a kid from their context of, okay, I want this toy. I can't buy it because right now this is the money you keep. This is when you can spend it. And so the end of it, the characters explain to another character, this is what happens. And for us, that was a beautiful way to take a parenting moment and build it out into insight which a kid will understand and not feel like they're being talked down to. And what we really had to fight is, at any point, does it not feel like you are taking away the level of intelligence a child today might have, and really give them what they want. They will still laugh whenever. So the videos that do really well is when you have like really fun animated germs, or like we've had a video about like, and even the one with the mosquito, right? We've had like a mosquito comes and bites, and this is random green goo that goes inside, and we know that kids are going to love that part. But don't also question their intelligence and say, oh, the bacha hai to samjhega nahi. But no, just give it to them and you will be very surprised about what they engage with. That's been my biggest challenge. Like, I did this session last year. I went for the Sharjah Book Festival and I did this session with 100 kids. And the things they were talking about, things they were asking is like, I don't know if I was half as aware or intelligent at their age, but they're so on point with what the world is around them, and they want to know more, and they actually feel like they don't learn enough. So they want to know more, and they're very hungry for information.
And at what age is this age group?
From the age of like 5, 6 till about 8,
Wow.
10. So our primary audience is 3 to 8 right now. And we're seeing 6 to 8-year-olds being the most curious about the most interesting thing. Like, they want to know how AI works, which a lot of parents have asked us, and can I make a video piece which explains how parents want to know, how do I give my kid access to AI in a responsible way, but secondly, how do I explain to my child how AI knows everything? And so we make some of those as well.
Interesting. Very fun. Emomee went to Shark Tank. Tell us about that experience.
A couple of months ago, some from the Shark Tank team had kind of reached out saying, would we be interested to be on the show? And we first thought about, okay, because we are a pre-revenue business, we're a media business, you've always seen product businesses on Shark Tank. We weren't really sure. So we signed up for it. And I think there's a part of us also, like, I'm South Indian at the end of the day, right? So I'm like, I'll have talking Hindi throughout the pitch was one thing in the back of my head. But I felt, I mean, Pooja and I had this long chat about the fact that it was a great platform for us to really showcase the business and to really also get in the right kind of people onto the cap table. We had a very strong cap table, right? We have 3 investors, Whiteboard Capital, we have Gruhas Collective, and we have DVC. So we had very strong consumer-focused, VCs on board, and we wanted to get in other founders onto the cap table. But we also wanted to, I mean, it's a marketing moment. It's also a moment to bring in capital into the business. So it was a very intense 3-4 almost week of prep, and more than anything else, I think what was really validating for us is we went on this platform, we made this a really fun show where we had our characters as mascots kind of come on and they would dance, and then we had this whole song piece, we did the pitch, and all the sharks got what we were building.
Okay.
And they all saw the value in an IP scaling up and what that can actually deliver on a global stage. And the fact that no one from India has been able to build that to truly become a global property in today's time. And then we actually ran them by the numbers of what our content's been doing, and they also saw the way we've been able to get traction, right? Because like 72% of the people who watch our videos stick to watch the entire video and don't swipe away, which is a very important metric we focus on all the time. Similar things about the topics we were focusing on. We had the best case scenario on the show where all sharks wanted to invest. And so me and Pooja had to kind of go into that tunnel and have this chat. And we eventually decided to go with two of them. We went with Namita and Aman, and they both invested, and super excited to see what all they will add in terms of insights, as well as capital, which always helps. I think for both of us also, I think it was about you're on a national stage. You're talking about something you're building, which is for almost like a global audience. And to have seasoned entrepreneurs from different spaces turn around and see value in wanting to invest in it was very strong validation.
And I think they must have thought about it the same way that we're looking at seasoned entrepreneurs who've done this. And so taking a bet on you is also easier, knowing that you're going to take it where it is and you have proof to show also with the work that you've done.
And that's the mindset we went in with, right? Is that what I've always seen is that if you are a second time founder, a lot of times that comes with a certain attitude, which I've noticed also. And we always go into these things with I think humility is a very like loaded word, but we go in by we just building again from scratch. We're again doing 0 to 1. We've done 0 to 100 somewhere else, but this is 0 to 1. So we act like that. And I think that also was really, I know a bunch of them said that as well, is that they value how we were and how our attitude was and how we're looking at the business as well. We're not looking at this as it's not an ego thing. It's not, oh, we've done this thing, we've done something else before. It was about, we see something in this vision. We know this has tremendous value to create for investors, for consumers. And we also have done enough to know this is what will work. I think that mixture is what really resonated.
I wanted to know, you said you obviously built this with your wife, Pooja. What is the most difficult part about building a business with your partner?
So I say this very often, is that every single business I have run, Pooja's been the CEO, and I've never had a negative P&L. So we have a partnership in life and at work. We have, I would say in the last 13 plus years of being together, we have spent a majority of our time together. Like we work together, we live together, we take care of our kids together, we go on holidays together. So we are always around each other, and we actually enjoy that a lot. We're very good partners, and because we're also very, very complementary in our skill sets. So I am very disorganized. I have zero planning in life. She's super organized. She's very sorted in that front. I am this person who will tap in a lot more onto the creative side, will also come back with stuff which at least won't be traditional way of looking at things. In the fact that even when we were making Emomee's content, the idea of saying let's create short format content for kids, because all our content is YouTube shorts, it's not long form videos, right? Is that traditional mindset was let's make long videos for kids, but like no, short format is how everyone consumes stuff. Let's try that. Will come from someone like me. When she's like, 1 second, let's now how do I structure this is what she will get into. So in all aspects of life, we partner up that way. And we also brought up bringing up 2 kids together. So I think everything else becomes far simpler to manage when you're also spending time bringing up kids together.
But everything can't be rosy. There must be some times that you maybe like disagree or don't like, or like this is getting too much because you're with one person 24/7.
So this is what we've learned, is that any good relationship is built on 2 things. One is, are you making the other person feel safe? And are you giving them enough space? So we basically, while we are around each other all the time, we both function in very different spaces. So it's not like we are constantly in each other's ear, but we're always around each other. And the second thing is that if there is something that is causing conflict, and there will be, there is, I mean, you cannot be a couple and not have conflict, and cannot work together and not have conflict. We have a very simple rule that when we are discussing it, it's in a safe space scenario where it's not about taking, treating it like, okay, you said something against me, so I'll say something against you, or we'll fight about it. We never sleep on a fight. Wrap it up, finish everything else, discuss it. We say that and over the years, because of just having that system built out for ourselves, we have actually joked that our fights are more like therapy sessions, right? Like, I hear what you're saying, but this is my point of view. If you genuinely like each other, and that's what, so everyone talks about love in a relationship. I always talk about liking each other. If you genuinely like each other and you like each other's company, all this other stuff figures itself out. It's not that complicated. You just got to be decent. You have to be fair and not also take everything as something that is against you. Just understand what the other person might want, but also very clear about what your needs are. And we also don't put our individual needs as a load on the other person. And that's been a very clear thing, right? We are very different people on many fronts. Like, I'm always consuming content. I'm always reading something. She calls it a treasure trove of useless information all the time. I have 50 videos to show her at any point of time. And she's like, I don't need all the information in the world. I will consume a few things to, like, to pass the time. And we're both very happy in those spaces. But when we do spend time together, we have many things that we enjoy, doing together. And so I think that's what you give each other space while also being in the same space is how we look at it.
Got it. And if you had to tell me what is the most difficult part about raising children, what would that be?
I don't know how it was before, but I think raising children in today's time, I think you're constantly worried about the amount of change happening around. I think the best thing was, I know there was a parent very early on who said this to Pooja, and I think it became one of our fundamental things when you even started to build Emomee, is that school is preparing my child for work. I have to prepare them for life. But even I don't know where life is going, considering how the world is changing. So how do I figure this out? And none of us are trained to be parents. We just asked to figure it out. And I feel just the amount of change happening around is the worry at the back of your head. And also children today live in bubbles. I feel when we all grew up, we could just you go to school, you go out and play, you come back home, do your homework and go back to school the next day. Now kids kind of they're in the building, then they kind of go to a school, they come back, they have their extracurriculars. I feel there's a lot of restrictiveness because of how the world is, and I feel to make sure that kids also are learning more about the world beyond those bubbles is the tough part. We've become a lot more segmented as a world in terms of, I think about when I was in school, I had friends who were from different backgrounds, but also would be in different spaces. So I'd go to each other's houses. We would, we would go to different, places and not have to think about it. I tell my mother, you sent me off to play at 2 in the afternoon and I would come back at some 8 in the night and I had there were no phones.
Right.
Now you're always okay, my kid's gone somewhere. It's just they live in this, we don't call it, I don't think it's surveillance, but I think that there's a certain amount of control of their movements.
Does that also mean that maybe as parents are a little bit more worried now than our parents who were go play, do your thing and we don't have to worry so much?
I think ignorance was bliss at that point of time for parents.
Because I don't think my parents, for example, would be very worried. Go to the garden or do this, do that. We didn't have so many classes and so much timeline and you need to learn this also, then you need to do it this way also. It was very it happened. We grew up. We didn't put so much thought. But today's parents are oh, you have to do this. You have to learn this also. You have to do all of these activities. And we need to know what you're doing. So much of that.
That's why we actually constantly hold ourselves back. I feel parenting also comes with a fair amount of FOMO, right? You're okay, other parents seem to be putting their kids into these classes. Let's put them there. And our general rule with the kids is you have to pick up one sport, one musical instrument, and don't do anything else. Or one activity rather. So our daughter's older, so she's she learns how to play the piano, she plays football, and she does art. 3 things she loves. Son's 3, so he's doing football, trying to make art is what I like to call it. 3-year-old doing art still takes time.
And football. 3-year-old.
And football. Football, he's been doing football since he's
I hope
two
he's
and a half.
doing it on his own, or did you push him to do it?
No, we put him in a class at 2:30 because he had too much energy. And then we're like, this is a great way to expend his energy. And he loves it. Like, he comes back at the only days he's tired enough to go to sleep right away is the days he has football days. Putting all that aside also, I think it's a great time also to bring up a kid, because I feel that I know how much I enjoy being a dad. I've always wanted to be a dad. I really enjoy it. Because now you're also not treating kids like kids.
Yes.
You're also part of the learning process for them. You're part of them discovering the world. You're part of them discovering new technologies, and part of the activities that they do. I think there's a fun to that. You are closer to your kids now because you are also constantly checking on what they're doing. But I think that it also comes with the pressure of making sure that you're giving them the right tools. I think that's the job. As a parent, are you giving them the right tools and the right access to things that will help them find happiness in life? I think the other stuff will come. I thankfully had parents who were always like, do something, do it well. Don't worry about doing the things that the world tells you to do. And they let me go and do all the things that I've done in my life. But yeah.
And I think it's also a learning process, because you don't know how to be a parent until you are. And then also you're navigating and figuring it out. So I feel like there's no right way to it. You're learning on the way yourself.
And if you're a dad also in today's time, it's even tougher because there is no manual for being a dad. I think moms share a lot more.
Still have,
I remember that in the last 3 odd years, I started to do something, is that I realized that when I became a dad, no one warned me. Right? All the stuff that comes with it. Like I've done like night duty for my kids since my daughter was born, which is like 8 years ago. So for 8 years, I have done every single night for the kids.
Wow.
Thankfully, now they sleep through the night, so it helps. But after that, whenever I found out a friend of mine was going to become a dad, I would take them out for lunch and say, this is what's coming.
You give them
This is how the next 6 months of your life are going to be. Okay. The next year is going to be. And I found, I think dads really being a lot more involved in the day-to-day of a kid's life, especially in the early years. And that's been a more recent thing.
Of course.
But I think it's also so much more fun. I like being a dad. I'm not trying to like, we cannot do what moms do. It's not possible. But I feel that there's a lot of stuff that dads do that also moms can't do, which is also fun.
Of course, it's a balance. Varun, you feel like a very calm, composed person like that. I want to know which moment in your life have you been thrown off your calmness and you were like, now shit's hitting the roof.
Every day I am this. So this is perception of calm.
So is it something that you put across that like I'm calm, composed, but then internally, of course, things could be happening?
So I'm actually very good with massive crisis situations. I'm actually super calm.
Externally or internally? Both.
No, internally I'm always in crisis situation. That's a different problem. That's a lifelong struggle. But I'd say externally, if let's say I'm at work and there's a massive crisis, I'm not focused on the panic which I might see around me. I'm focused on what we can do right now. But small things can throw me off really badly.
Okay.
Like I have this weird problem with any form of construction.
Okay.
So if there is any form of, like I have a carpenter in my house, I will start to panic because I am like, there's going to be dust here, and I very like bizarre, like random, stupid things.
I want to know though. They sound very interesting.
I like things to be a certain way.
Okay.
And when I see any disruption in that, which for me is somehow always connected to construction happening at home, like carpenter, plumber, always, or like for instance, if it's as simple as a bad haircut can put me off, but a massive business crisis will not put me off at all.
Why do you think that that's the case?
I think I'm just weird like that. I just like, I think everybody has to have something that will put them off. I'm very happy it's the small stuff that puts me off. But the internal part is something I've actually worked on a lot in life, right? I have actually, through my entire life, even till like 3-4 years ago, extremely low on self-confidence, would not like want to be on stage.
Until 3 years ago?
3-4 years ago. Till when I started to podcast was actually one of the first times I put myself out there. Because I was very happy being in the background. Like even at Glitch also I would like handle a lot of the production or back end and stuff like that, right? So very happy to be in the background because that felt safer.
Okay.
It's very safe to be in a non-frontlining position. And I always chose that because I always had this chip on my shoulder. As I was always that kid in class who was like, oh, he has so much potential, but he doesn't, not able to use it well, or never been able to like perform properly in academics or at, I work also.
Is that something somebody told you?
It kind of has been something around me my entire life, because I grew up in a small town in coastal Andhra Pradesh. While my parents never put that pressure, it was always like, okay, academics was the main thing or sports was the main thing. I wasn't extremely good at either of them. I was very good at random music trivia and movie trivia, but I was never really great at like math. And then I went to Bangalore to study. And when I went to Bangalore, I was this small town boy who had gone to Bangalore, and suddenly I'm the least cool person in my group of people around me. Again, kind of put me back to saying, okay, 1 second, you're reasonably uncool. You don't know as much because you haven't had access to the world around you. So there were, I think that period of time till I was maybe 23, 24, super, like it pushed me back in confidence a lot. And I was like, this is safer. I can be in the background. It's fine. And stuff. But when I went to study in Pune, when I do mass comm, it's when I made a set of friends in mass comm college who are still my closest friends today. We all still hang out together. We all gotten old together. And they were the first set of people who made me feel safe enough to just try to be myself. So it was a slow rebuilding process over the years. But again, by then you also like, I think there's muscle memory that forms in, right? Like, these are your safe spaces. So it can be fun and more out there with friends. But with the outer world, you're always like, no, it's okay. I don't want to lead the meeting. I don't want to do this. And then somehow it was podcasting for me, because I had actually started podcasting the year before or the year after I sold Glitch. And I'm like, at that time, I think there's a certain amount of like, okay, 1 second, there's one part that's secure in life. So I think there must have been some internal confidence that came in. And the whole logic was that I've been in this industry and I've built this business, and I still don't know half the people here. And I always like talking to people. So I just started with that, and I took it from there. And it's been a push for me initially to really push myself to be out there. But I've also struggled with that a lot. And I think 2-3 years ago, I kind of sat down, and I live with a very confident person. Like, Pooja is one of the most confident people I know. Like, I know she has this morning thing where she goes in, freshens up, and she comes out, and actually this confident person come out. And a couple of years ago, I just literally, I think, I don't know where it came from. Maybe it was the pandemic, maybe it was a midlife crisis. I was saying, I want to do the stuff that I've always been scared to do. I also, like, at some point stopped explaining myself. I think a lot of times you are trying to explain yourself to people in your head. So you hold yourself back, and I'm like, I don't want to explain myself. It's okay. People can just call me someone in a midlife crisis.
But you had already done some really successful things while at Glitch, right? Before even selling it, the campaigns that you're doing, the team that you're building, and then, of course, selling it. So how come the confidence was still low?
You can do the biggest things in the world, but if you internally don't feel like you are worth the confidence, then it's not going to come out.
What made you think you are not worth the confidence?
Let's take an example, right? If a project does really well, I'm like, oh, it was a team effort. Everyone did really well, right? A pitch goes really badly, I'm like, oh, I didn't do it right. You get to a point where any success is a group activity. Any point of failure is self-criticism. And I was in that for a long time.
This is a part of imposter syndrome.
Massive imposter.
That women go through more.
Imposter syndrome, spotlight effect of like walk into a room, okay, everyone's looking at what I'm wearing, what I'm doing. No, I'm like, I just walk in. I'm like, you have to let those things go, and it's taken me a long time to let it go. It's been like an internal process, therapy, all those things together. Because I would always be told this, that you're a reasonably good looking man. You've done well for yourself in your career. You are. I've gotten fitter now, but it's not like I've ever been unfit.
And you have a great family. Everything is great.
Yeah.
So from the outside, people would think that you have it all together.
I do not have it all together. And I've been through that cycle. It had to be internal work, because I've thankfully had the best set of people around me initially as parents. Then since Pune onwards were like a group of friends, and then with Pooja and everybody else around me, like really are the best people to have around. Most conducive environment to be yourself. And at some point you realize that the only person criticizing you is yourself, and you have to kind of move past that. And the only way to do that is to, I remember reading this one thing that really helped me, is that the only way you build self-belief is by giving yourself proof that you can actually do something.
Okay.
I don't believe in affirmations. I'm like, I have to give myself proof.
What proof did you give yourself to gain your confidence?
I think in each aspect of life, it's been different things.
Okay.
For, let's say, I think being a creator has given me that confidence that actually, I always believe my creative ideas were nice, but they were never like the best ones. But when I put myself out there to create content on Instagram or on YouTube, I'm like, this is my creative idea. I'm putting it out there. The world is there to judge it. And when that cycle starts to happen, and you make sure you're always controlling the fact that it's not about validation, it's about, I enjoyed the process of making this. Some people like it, and it's not come out in a bad way, then I must be doing something right. And you tell your mind that, and your mind, adds it somewhere to that, point of saying, okay, one second, this person can do this. Same with fitness, right? When when we had our daughter, I was reasonably buff because I always wanted to be this person with muscles and all that stuff, but I had terrible stamina. And I would carry this small baby around and I would get tired. And Pooja told me that, what's the point of having these big muscles if you can't carry a baby around and you get tired? So I remember then meeting this coach who I still trained with, Saurabh from SoFit. And I told Saurabh, I just want to be strong for life. I just want to do that. And that's my only focus in fitness, is that can I carry my kids on my shoulders and walk around Disneyland for like 45 minutes and not have lower back pain? Now that I have two of them, if they're both 15 kilos each on an average, can I lift up 230 kilo dumbbells and at ease? And which I can, which is surprising for people to see it, because I don't look like a person who will do 34 kg dumbbells, right? So it's just been those. So I'm like constantly giving my brain proof. So can you write a book was a thing, right? I've been wanting to write a book since I was 18. Would always write like the prologue or something because I didn't know how to write a book. And I would stop saying, no, it's not looking nice. Till I eventually because of the Substack which I was writing, I got a deal from Penguin to write a book. And I'm like, I'll write a book in 8 months. And I just sat and wrote every single day. So that's the other part that really helps. So you have to do it every day. Like I have to create one piece of content every day, even if I don't post it every day. I have to work out 5 to 6 days a week. So it's almost like I have to do these things on a constant basis. So I'm constantly feeding in that I can do something. And your brain registers that. And then at some point, all this stuff doesn't bother you. Now I can take like 2 weeks off of working out and my brain won't think that, okay, you're unfit. Or I can have like 20 reels not do well, which I'm not saying will happen. And then I'm like, it's fine. My creative still works. So it's just been that. It's just like constantly feed yourself proof.
So when you did podcasting, what changed? And why did you even start podcasting?
How I started podcasting is the most random chain of events coming together. I was a guest on the pilot of a show called the Filter Coffee Podcast, which was a colleague from WPP at that time, Karthik Nagarajan, was hosting it. He said, you come for this as the pilot, it might never air. I'll buy you a beer. I'm like, perfect, let's do this. The company he was hosting that for was a company called IVM Podcast. And Amit and Kavita from IVM had heard that podcast and like, do you want to host one too? And at that time, there were very few advertising podcasts, at least in the perspective of a non-internal conversation. I think a lot of business podcasts can also fall into the trap of being very internal dialogue. Like anybody outside won't understand what's being talked about. It's like listening to like CNBC. Like I don't half the words I don't understand half the time. And so I'm like, let me do it from that perspective. Like, can anybody who watches or at that time listens to this podcast understand what this business is? And I started to do that. And I said, okay, I'll do like, and I gave my target up, like I'll do 12 episodes. And half of those will be people I know. So just invited people I knew from the industry, did 12, then did more. And I just kept doing it. And I bought a mic to practice at home. Because I've always been a person who talked really quickly. So I practiced at home to talk slower.
Okay.
Spoke to friends who were musicians, put a pencil on my lips when I'm talking. So I don't like, all that stuff. And then thankfully, because I'd bought the mic at home, and when the pandemic hit, the show never stopped because I would just log in and have someone join in on Zoom and I would do the episode.
The blue mic.
The blue mic. Everybody has that one Yeti blue mic there, right? So it's still there in my on the shelf now. I haven't used it in years, but it's still there. The number of podcast mics I have is a whole different problem. And then just kept doing it on. And I also felt I learned so much with every conversation. I also made some great friends. Also ended up it also helped business a lot. I gotten clients because of that. I've gotten great people to hire because of it. I've gotten to invest into companies because of it. And so it was always giving me more. And I just kept doing it because I enjoyed it and tried different formats, kept doing it. And even Instagram happened because of the podcast. I started to make Instagram videos to promote the episodes. And then one day I was working out and my daughter was like, Papa, those people who put up videos of themselves dancing while putting songs. Do you want to do that when you're working out? And this is like, at that time, I think she was very young. She was like, maybe in like junior kindergarten or something. Like, let's do that for fun. And so that's how that started. And that's taken its own journey that way. But yeah.
If you had to tell me, what is your biggest learning from doing podcasting?
My biggest learning from doing podcasting is actually that there is the line between over preparing for a conversation in life and under preparing. And where that line is where the most insights come from.
Explain.
So I'll give an example. There's an episode which I hate because it's the one episode where I really blew it, because I basically was going to interview one person I have always admired and still admire, is Ronnie Screwvala.
Okay.
And I had a chance to record with Ronnie in the first 15 episodes of my pod because he just happened to be someone who was available. So I prepared a lot. I had questions and everything set. And then it just went sideways because I somehow stuck to only those questions and he didn't want to talk about those things. And I came back, I'm like, this is what happens when I over prepare. And I'm always under prepared for most things. And so I've also had scenarios where I have forgotten what the guest was, what the background of the guest was. I prepared for preparing for the wrong exam. I once prepared for a guest. I will not name it because it ever comes out. But basically, this guest was from a sports channel.
Okay.
So I thought it's about sports marketing. That much I know, I'll figure it out. But this was about using neuroscience to target for ads in a sports channel, which I did not know, or rather had not read the notes. So 5 minutes to the podcast, I'm like, just send me the notes again, no? And I saw it. I'm like, this is not a 5-minute preparation thing. But I just made them talk to me before we hit records and can I explain a little bit more about how this works. And so I had 5 minutes of my own reading and then 7 minutes of them saying, and I did and that's one of the most insightful conversations I've had, because that was a space I didn't even know existed. That people were actually using neuroscience to better target ads to people watching television, not even streaming. And that's why the line is that sometimes you believe in life preparation is important, but I feel you have to be somewhat unprepared for it to be natural, for natural things to come out of a conversation, for natural insights to come out, because you also navigate a lot. I've had conversations where I've had guests shut down because I brought up something. You ask everybody about their childhood and I have fond memories, right? I had a guest who I brought up his childhood and he shut down. And it wasn't as public, not something he's publicly spoken about having some form of trauma as a child. And so to bring him back to feeling comfortable to talking also was a process. And I've learned a lot from just how to engage with other people and making them feel safe. And I would come back home from the podcast and Pooja would look at me and say, I can make out how this was today from how your face is. But yeah, it's just like, it's a great insight into human beings by just sitting in a room and talking to them.
I have to tell you, mine used to be a similar case wherein I used to sit with an iPad with exact questions, so that because I have these big guests coming, I feel so responsible to ask them the right thing in the right way, etc. And I did that for a really long time. It helped me, of course, to get into the flow of it. But at some point, my coach told me that, Aleena, you need to let go of the iPad. And I was like, no, but like, what if I forget what I have to ask? And she's like, but only you will know na, that you forgot to ask this. So it's okay. You don't have to cover everything under the sun, and leave things to like navigate on its own. And it's changed how at least I work. I don't know how the audiences are perceiving it, but not having an iPad lets me go into asking questions that are flowing according to the conversation and not according to what I want to say. But it was difficult to let it go. It's like I'm leaving control of the whole thing.
What I would do is that I found a middle ground. Is that I would write points I want to talk about. So I'll have that. And I'm like, as long as I've gone through a bunch of those, I'm fine. And I agree. I eventually stopped looking at that sheet. I think a good part about doing it is that I feel it's also opening up. As a viewer, I'm also want to know more than the obvious. And as a guest, I don't want to be asked the same questions again and again. I would honestly many times ask a guest saying, what do you not get to talk about enough?
Yeah.
And I actually did this one show, a version of a show once, early pandemic, because I'm like, everyone was kind of bored of, like, we were sitting at home, right? They were bored of the regular kind of content they got. And I did this, I think, about 8 episodes of a show called Useless Information, where the only rule was that I would ask my guest, what do you want to talk about that you never get to talk about? So I've had Rohan Joshi come on, and he and I spoke about movie soundtracks for like 45 minutes. I've had Saurabh Pant come and talk about cricket. At that time, he wasn't doing anything on cricket. Now he obviously has the streaming show. I had Gaurav Kapoor come and talk about paparazzi for like 45 minutes.
Wow.
So people just came and talked about stuff they were curious about. It was not about them. Like Nikhil Chinappa spoke about diving in the ocean and like how
I
he
remember.
and so much of that. So that was fun. Very also early pandemic time, so people are also like having very like existential conversations.
What do you think about the podcasting industry now versus when you were doing it back in the day?
I think we need to stop calling it podcasting.
What should
I
we
think
call
we all.
it?
I think we all. It's all different formats of shows that we have, and I feel what it's opened up for people is that conversations, at least in the conversational podcast space, are a genre to themselves, and there are so many different ways to do them, so many topics to go under. What changed, and I think what is coming, what you're kind of coming back to where it started, is that when it started off, it was a lot of niches, and then every show started to become the
Similar.
same. I feel we're going back to niches now, because if every guest goes on every show, then the only difference is the host. And at some point, there's only so many hosts you will follow. And so if you really want to build something for yourself, you have to find your own niche. And the niche has to be something which is very different from what everybody else kind of like is making out there. Like Subway Takes is one of my favorite shows to watch, because it is so different from every
Engaging,
show
yeah.
out there, right? I love Flagrant. Flagrant, yeah. Because like it's a bunch of comedians, but they're half the time offensive, but they're just talking about stuff.
Okay.
And I watch a lot of these shows because I just feel that it's refreshing to see a rejig of a format. I've always enjoyed like breaking a format, and like the show which I did with Suchita, and now I know there are a few others like that. We were like, can we talk about business news in a way that we're taking the piss out of it? Right. So we would call a spade a spade. When we felt something was not right in a business story, we would say, why would you do that? We've used the F word, we've said all that stuff. Then she got acquired, and then I decided to start another company. And we're like, maybe let's not piss on everybody right now, is when we moved on from that strategically.
Good call.
I think the opportunity today is to go really different in the way you do formats. And you don't have to make everything for everyone. I think that's the thing. Everyone's trying. I think the problem is when you try to make the show extremely generalized, the problem becomes that then the differentiation becomes far tougher.
Got it. If you had to tell me your biggest learning from guests on the podcast while doing podcasting, what would that be?
Gajraj Rao said something about love, which I always think back on. I tell him this whenever I've met him again. I say that I'll never forget. He said that most of us as men are not told what our roles are in relationships. And so we end up looking at what we perceive to be our roles in relationships, and we go with that. And we need the women in our lives to explain to us what our role is. So if more men need to either share what the role needs to be, or we need to actually turn to the women in our lives and ask them, okay, one second, I'm doing something which I might not have any idea how I should be in this role. What can I do to be the right person in this situation? So I think I didn't put it as beautifully as he did, but you have to be almost raw about the fact that I don't know how to be in a relationship. Let me learn from the woman who I want to be in a relationship with about how I should be in it, rather than assume that I'm in charge and I'm a man and I will go and do it, and just learn from the woman in the relationship, and that makes you far better. And he learned that. He narrates a beautiful story. I went to did the pod with him about how he learned that from someone he was in a relationship with.
Before that, what did you think your role was in the relationship? And then what did you realize after you discussed that this was actually your role?
I feel I used to be a person who would believe that, I'm very malleable to manage in a situation because I will adapt myself to it. So anyway, the thing is, I'm like, it's okay. So I used to be a lot more reserved. So you will not share as much. You will feel what you feel inside. You are just going with the flow, but you also will slightly more, I wouldn't even call it rigid. You just stuck in a way of doing things, and you're like, okay, well, I will do this in my own corner, but I will not change. that taught me to actually saying, I'm okay to be vulnerable about it and talk about what I'm feeling and how I want maybe things to be, and what more can I also do. It kind of opened up that part, which had kind of already happened, but I think that opened it up a lot more.
Interesting.
But I've also gotten great work insights, which also is
Yes.
fun. I mean, Tanmay always gives great insights. So there'll always be a Tanmay one somewhere there. He's actually one of the first episodes in the pandemic that I remember had really gone around and people had gone.
What insight did Tanmay give?
I don't know if he said it on the podcast. Maybe he said it after we stopped recording.
Okay.
He told me that as a creative person, you have to reinvent yourself every 6 months.
Yes.
And he said, if you don't do that every 6 months, the world will just, it's not about you stagnating. It's just the world will move to something else. So it's not about changing who you are. It's about kind of realigning your spot in the world. And I feel he does that brilliantly. He always has. I've known him since both of us were in college. So it's been a long time of seeing him evolve. And I'd actually asked someone for advice once a long time ago. And I'm trying to remember who that was. I remember the advice. I'm forgetting who the person was, which is terrible.
You say the advice, maybe you'll remember who it was.
The advice was the fact that a lot of times you will take decisions based on a large amount of data and a large amount of insights. And a lot of times you will take decisions which have just based on gut. And what you will realize is that neither of them are fully going to be right or wrong. And you just have to be okay with that. Is that there is no right answer. Right?
Okay.
The only thing you will learn as a founder is that there are no right answers. So you just have to go looking for answers, and sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. And
why had you asked for this advice?
I basically said, if you had a piece of advice for a younger entrepreneur, what would it be? And that's what he said. And I was like, that just makes total sense, because I think we're very hard on ourselves as founders. I know enough founders who give themselves a hard time.
Yes, me. I'm very hard on myself.
And the whole point is this, is that you can't decide the outcome. And all you can focus on is what you're doing right now. It's a very stoicism thing to say, which I'm a true believer in stoicism. I found it in the early pandemic, is that just focus on what's under your control. Sometimes things will go right, sometimes things won't, and it's fine.
So not in terms of the results, that I'm okay with. I know it's definitely not in my hands, but in the way things are done. If something is not done right, or I could have done better, at that point, then I tell myself that, you should have done it properly.
But here's the thing, you will never do anything right. Because it can always be done better. And just accepting that is the best thing to do. Because everything you do, you'll find one thing you could have done better.
Yes.
Like, you'll always leave every podcast, you leave every project. Like, every time I put up a reel, I'm like, I could have maybe edited that back a few frames, right? Or maybe that song or that hook could have been different. But you just make the next one. You just learn from one and make the next one. And that's what we do internally, right? Every video we make with Emomee, we pull the data out. Okay, where did the drop-off happen? What worked, what didn't work. Let's learn that, do it in the next video. And as long as you enjoy making the video, as long as you enjoy doing the thing, then it's not as much of a goal-oriented thing as it is a process-oriented thing. Right? Just focus on the process and enjoy it. And it's also a lot of fun. So you shouldn't miss the fun when you're a founder. And just focus on the results so much.
Got it. Why did you stop podcasting?
I stopped podcasting because I asked myself a fundamental question, is that am I doing podcasting because I have to do it or because I want to do it? And for the first time since 2018, I told myself that I'm just doing it because I feel like I have to do it and not because I fully want to do it.
Okay.
I think I was kind of done with, I'd done a lot of episodes, and at some point I kind of felt like either I need to take a break where I just stop, because I've actually always not spoken about personal stuff as much.
Yes, I've noticed. That's
and
why.
Pooja and I've had this long conversation. I was like, I think I can talk about,
Yes.
I think it's a Desi thing, right?
Of course.
You will think about Nazar.
Yeah. Oh,
and you're like, 1 second, you have a good relationship, touch wood, you have children who are healthy. Do you really want to talk too much about that?
Nothing. It's not like
it's an old uncle thing to say.
It's not like you're bragging about it, but there's so much that other people could learn from the journeys that you have been through or other people have been through, which is what also is the reason for the podcast in the first place, right? Because I feel like there's so much to learn from you, and I've seen your work for so many years. I've never heard of how difficult maybe it can be to work with the with the partner you're living with, or how difficult it is to work while you're raising children, because that is difficult. Then again, you're a great father and a great husband. So then what goes into that? Because so many young people are actually going through difficulties navigating relationships, and so if we don't learn from the people we're looking up to, it's a problem.
But relationships are actually not complicated. I think guys get it wrong in a fundamental way. Is that and I tell this to every dad. Actually, not guys. I think dads. Guys is a whole broader topic. People believe that to be involved as fathers, you have to do the mother's job. No, you look at the stuff the mom doesn't want to do. First, start doing that. So Pooja really values her sleep. The one thing I'm terrible at, but
Most
actually,
women.
which I'm terrible at, is sleeping. Right? So I'm like, I will just take care of nights.
What a big relief that is.
She didn't want to handle poop. I'm very good with dealing with shit, like work-wise, in life, everywhere else. I'm like, I will deal with every single potty diaper anywhere in the world. Actually, my children will learn this when they're much older. I will give them a narration of the places those diapers have been changed and how they have been managed. And funnily enough, at work also, I would be like, so we used to have this standing joke in Glitch, and I don't know if that's changed with Emomee, is that we would say that there are different categories. There was Pooja, there was Rohit, and there was me. And Pooja was Food Square. Rohit was Nature's Basket. I was Kirana Store. Right. So all the Kirana Store stuff would come to me in terms of work. It's also skill sets. Right? I'm easily malleable into situations. So you pull me into a random whatever admin issue of toilet nahi kaam kar raha, I will help manage that. If you ask me tomorrow saying some pitch ke liye someone's not available, I'll go do the pitch also. So I'm like, I was very malleable with that. So I would do that. And I feel a lot of, and that's actually what you should also do in relationships, is that it's not about control. And I feel a lot of people think relationships are about control. It's about just saying there's some things each of you are good at. Just let that person who's good at that manage that aspect. And that's what a partnership is. No, it's about just kind of doing stuff together.
But you're saying this from a very matured lens, and kudos to you to say that these are the parts that I have no problem in handling, because a lot of men would look at it as a traditionally woman's thing to do, is to stay up and look after the feed or look after the poop, like you said. And I'm saying it's so important for you to say, because it's a normal thing for men to help out in these things also.
But I'm seeing more and more dads do this now. It's a good. I think we're a growing community of dads doing that. But I also, it's not like I knew how to. Like, if I look at my 20s, I was not the best kind of person to be in a relationship with. Right? I was super self-centered. I've like had tons of breakups a lot of times because I would just not know where to take that relationship, and I would just like say, okay, I'm done with it. Right? And then I met Pooja, and then I would always like to say that you have to find the right partner to become the right partner. And I met her, and I've learned a lot about how to be in a relationship because of being in a relationship with her. I know, I think it's a part of getting older as well. If you find the right partner and you also have the will to change, a lot of issues come up. And I think that comes up in all kinds of partnerships, right? Is that if you are not willing to adapt for another person, then that's never going to work. Then it's always going to be you versus the other person.
But there's another narrative that says that you shouldn't expect the other person to change and just accept them for who they are.
True, but that's also not a relationship then. Then it's two people living together, but not necessarily living with each other. So there'll always be some things you'll have to change. Like, I'm not a foodie. I have now become a foodie by virtue of living with someone who is a foodie. Pooja is not someone who's super excited about random pop culture stuff, or every second trailer that's come out, or every 50th meme that or reel that I will forward. Right? I would like to believe, and I will have to ask her this question, is that I feel she's become a more curious person beyond what she was. I think she always was curious. I think I've just brought that out a little bit more. By virtue of just being surrounded by a person who's constantly like giving her an overdose of information. So it's about opening yourself up in certain ways, but you don't have to change yourself. That's the thing. You have to adapt, but not necessarily change. Like I said, like some things I'm not changing about myself. Like some things will not change. And I know there's a bunch of stuff with her that way. And you also accept those. You're not trying to you don't have to become a whole new person.
But you spoke about slowing down, and I've read about the articles that you've written about slowing down also, and on Instagram also. Now, is that something that is necessary? Is that something that is maybe comes with a certain timeline in life? Because, for example, the stage that I am in right now, I feel like I have the opportunity to be aggressive with my work and do this hustle and do it at the pace that I'm doing right now, which is for other people very uncomfortable. For me, it's very normal. But then there could be a phase when you want to like slow down, because if everybody's telling me, Aleena, like chill and like slow down, and I said, but I have the time, I have the freedom to be able to do this right now, so I'm going to make the most of it, and it's not to a point of a burnout. So how do you know when do you slow down?
So I would just first like to clarify. I have said we should slow down, but I'm also the person who's right now creating content on Instagram every day, building a new business, has 2 kids, wants to write a book again, which I have not gotten down to, and also hang with friends and do everything else, right? So the problem with slowing down, and I actually learned this the hard way, is that if you actually think that slowing down is okay, you not have a high energy job, that you get to have this relaxed morning and you get to go through your day, maybe do one thing every day, that can also be extremely boring. So slowing down is different for different people, but it's more about pacing yourself. It's that cliched line of life is a marathon, not a race scenario, right? But it's more about the fact that what is that right pace for you at the stage you're in life is very important for you to think about. And more importantly, the slowness is also about the results. We put way too much focus on I want the results now versus I will get this results hope maybe in 3 years, in 5 years, right? It's this there's this lovely quote which I love, is the fact that we overestimate how much we can do in a day and underestimate how much we can accomplish in a year.
Favorite.
And just focus on that. So your grind and your ability to push yourself as an individual could be far higher than the next person. But if you know what your limits are, then slow is your definition. It's not somebody else's definition of slow, right? Like sometimes I feel like I'm not slow at all. But then I look at other people sometimes, I'm like, one thing, maybe actually it's fine. This is my definition of slow, not somebody else's. Being slow does not mean that you will come last. Being slow is just that you're managing your energy. And in every decade of your life, your energy levels are going to be different.
Yes.
And so optimize for how you can use your energy best in a day, which means you have to slow down to that pace. And as long as you do that, you will far exceed anything you want to achieve in life. The problem is we overestimate how much energy we have in a day. And we believe because, that person is doing so much in a day, so I will do this. I will do this Pomodoro technique and all the other things. I'm like, don't want to do any of those things. Just focus on your energy.
I've realized that, for example, other podcasters do like 3 times a week, which is every other day they can do a podcast. And I was like, maybe I should consider increasing the number of podcasts that I do. And then I realized that no, everybody's energy level is different. Mine is also divided into so many places. Yeah. And so I might as well do this much only, but do it properly rather than overexerting myself and trying to do as much other people are doing.
People don't know the physical exertion that goes out of doing a podcast. Whenever I'm in a podcast and I'm very intensely into it, my neck starts to tighten up.
Okay.
So I've actually had to do physiotherapy over the last 4 or 5 years many times because I've had too many intense conversations on a podcast, and I go back and have to put like acupuncture needling into my neck. And she's like, why are you so tense? I'm like, because I'm doing podcast. She's like, you realize that's not good for your neck. People understand the physical strain that podcasters have to go through.
For me, it's a lot more mental. Like, it's so much information that you're taking, you're preserving in your mind, you're calculating, you're speaking to guests, not only on the podcast, before, after, mental preparation for it. Then I don't like to because then I won't be able to give my full energy on one. So I think that when I started, I was like, but I love talking and I love listening, and I anyways do this in life, right? So I was like, it's going to be that only. But then you realize a podcast is completely different conversation than a normal regular one.
What I also can't do is listen to my own voice. So I've never.
You are the most soothing.
I've never rewatch in shorter format. I can do, but like in podcast, I have never actually re-listened to anything I recorded.
Everybody finds their own voice bad. Like, I find it too screeching. Like, why am I screeching? Is what I get. But your voice is like a very soothing.
So my voice goes deep, but sometimes goes slightly less deep, and I always like it to be deeper. So I get irritated when it's not deep enough.
No, it's actually, for your voice is very nice to listen to on a podcast.
Most people I went to college with always like laugh at the fact that when I was in college, I used to talk so quickly, people won't understand what I said. They're like, how did you become a podcaster? Like, nobody understood. Like people look for subtitles when I was talking in college because that fast is how I was
How did you learn how to make it slower?
Again, took time, slowly practiced. Again, it's working on it on a daily basis. Just work on it, keep recording, and then I just keep sending samples to saying, okay, can you check on it? I'd also have a few people who I would give me feedback in the right way. So like Roshan Abbas, who was our only investor in our last business. Roshan I've known since I was in college, and Roshan's obviously been radio and everything else from before, right? So I would send him this, and he would tell me change these things about how you do it. You know, maybe tweak this way of doing it. And I also would listen to enough podcasters to learn from their craft, like how are you going from topic to topic? How are you kind of navigating those? There's so much to learn from just like observing other people you admire.
He was my second guest, and I was so grateful that he came. And I asked him also, I said, for me, it's not about speaking fast. For example, it's about that I think of too many more sentences than I can say. And that mixes up my sentences so many times on stage. By then, I had not done so much podcasting. And he said, Aleena, breathe. Yeah. I said, what do you mean breathe? First I went like this. And he's like, no, I'm telling you, you just breathe. And then I was like, okay, and then what? And then he's like, you will say only the things that are important. And then I said, but what if like my mind has to set 10 sentences? So he's like, you will say 5 now, let it be 5 only. You don't have to say all the 10 sentences in the pace that your mind is working, because that's running faster than the things I can speak.
That's the best advice.
Today, I know you much more because of our conversation, but it's never come off that you are running Glitch or you are like the CEO or that you've sold your company as much. And I think that's the thing I most value about people. I feel like when somebody achieves even little bit success nowadays and they talk about like they've done so much, that really puts me off. I like to talk to people who are, I know I will use all the heavy words, like grounded and have their feet on the ground. And I think that you learn the most from such people. And I feel like they are long-term players. So you should be associating with those kind of people. And you've been very helpful whenever I've asked you something, whenever I've come to you for some advice, even for Social Media Dissect. I remember this must be years ago. You must not even remember. But since then, you've been very approachable and helpful. So I hope that Emomee reaches the very big global platform and becomes the next big thing. And I hope that you are able to tell yourself every time that you are worthy and deserving of it. Because I know that that's something you struggle with.
No, thank you so much. I must tell you this. I always enjoy conversations where you go to places you haven't gone to in a conversation before. And you've been able to do that for many parts of this. And so thank you for that. Always helps me come out of this chair and think about some of the stuff I've said. It also helps my own head.
I'm glad. I hope you come back to podcasting when it's a good time for you, because I personally miss the podcast that you are doing. And I've had a great chat with you. Thank you for being so open with me. I know that could have taken it took a while for you to do.
Not at all.
Thank you so much for doing this. Thanks. Thank you guys so much for watching another episode. If you liked it, please tell me in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.